morning. My name is Jeanne Henderson, and I work at General Motors, and I'm a senior contract domain expert, where I work with our business partners with setting up service agreements for our facilities management services. I'm also the lean lead with our business partners to teach them on lean principles.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so I'm Darrell Rounds. I'm currently the senior manager responsible for global workplace risk mitigation in our global workplace safety organization at General Motors. But I have more than 24 years of experience in the facility space, and I'm just happy to be here after 3 years to see people's faces with masks off. So. We're going to talk about lean management within facilities management. And if you use the clicker to advance. So our agenda is as follows. We're going to talk about the definition of lean. We're going to talk about how to identify waste in its different forms, the key principles of lean facilities management. How do we define standardization, applying standardization to FM, and the benefits of standardization within FM, and then we can open it up for questions and answers.
So how many facilities managers do we have in the audience? Do we have any? Oh, good. We have a good showing. So I know as facilities managers, you're constantly looking at ways to optimize your business. You can do this 3 ways. You can increase the quality of the service rendered. You're going to try to increase the efficiency of the service rendered and reduce the waste that distracts from the quality. So 2 primary considerations. You're going to look at the value, anything a customer is willing to pay for, and then waste, which is MUNDA, any activity in the process of production that does not add value. And I know as facility managers, you're really constantly looking at that to evaluate and eliminate cost. So knowing what customers value, there are 3 conditions you must meet when defining what the customer will value. It must transfer the product or the service, the customer must be willing to pay for it, and it must be done correctly the first time, and that's really key where we really dive into that whole first time quality. Only if all 3 criteria are met does the process add value. Are you getting the job done? That is the key, is knowing that you're getting the job done and that you're meeting your customers' needs. So what is lean? Lean is all about the elimination of waste, increasing quality value, and optimizing efficiency. So lean practices really go back to the Toyota production system, which originates back into the 1940s, and I know a lot of companies such as ours have really done a lot of studying and trying to bring lean principles into our process. Lean is known, as we know it now, became industry vernacular in the 1990s. Everyone was really putting a focus on lean. Lean is primarily founded on 2 principles: just in time, which implies making only what is needed when it's needed, and automation, which implies automation with a human touch.
So waste is anything other than the minimum amount of equipment, materials, parts, and working time, which is absolutely essential to add value to the product or service. And one of the godfathers of lean, in the person of Taiichi Ohno, is attributed with that quote. So waste is any step or action that is not required to complete a process. So when we talk about waste, there's a gentleman by the name of Tim Woods that we like to reference. And Tim Woods is the enemy. But Tim Woods is an acronym that helps you to understand what the different types of waste are, as each letter in that name represents a type of waste. But another acronym that you can use to identify the 8 forms of waste is also downtime. And downtime is also an enemy of a process because time is money, time is quality, time is everything. So you have the 8 forms of waste: defects, overproduction, waiting, non-utilized talent, transportation, inventory, motion, and extra processing. And we're going to go into each of those different types of waste and how it can manifest itself within the facilities management process. Next slide. So when we talk about defects, defects is the presence of products or services that are out of spec that require resources to correct. So, you know, when we talk about facilities management and housekeeping as a subset of that, you know, an example of a defect could be where a restroom is not cleaned correctly the first time. As simple as that sounds, that's a defect within your process. On the maintenance side, a defect could be a maintenance work order executed incorrectly. So a technician can be given a work order, they go out, they perform the task, they find, you find out that the task wasn't performed the right way. That's a defect, right? Overproduction, producing too much of a product before it is ready to be sold. So there is, within the confines of the FM process, of overdoing something, right? So an example of that is over cleaning the space, right? You operate to a certain spec, you operate to a certain standard, but because you overdo it, you attribute more resources to it, and that's waste. Because those resources could be deployed somewhere else. Does that make sense? All right. Waiting. Waiting is delaying action so that the previous step within a process is completed. How many techs do we have in the room at all? Like maintenance techs or managers? Or, all right, okay, thank you. So, have you ever had to wait on a critical part to complete a work order? You know, you're just playing a waiting game, right? That's a waste of time, and time is money, because it was not available to you when you needed it. Non-used talents or skills underutilized is another form of waste. So basically, that I believe that people are the most important aspect of any enterprise. If you take care of your people, you take care of your business, because people are the resources that get things done. And if those skills are underutilized, then that's waste. So an FM example is like employees not having enough training in order to get the job done, or people being out of place. It's all about having the right people in the right place. All right? Go to the next slide. Another form of waste, transportation. Having to unnecessarily move items or information to perform the process from one place to another. So an example of that within FM is job routes and floor layouts are not thoughtfully planned out. So as FM managers, as techs, have you ever been assigned a job or a series of jobs, and you had to go from here, then you had to go all the way over there just to come back here, right? That's a lot of inefficiency. So, FM operators are required to take materials to complete a job from one place to another, as opposed to having the materials available to them at the point of use. So it would make sense that if you had critical tasks that were being done on a consistent basis, and you knew that you had that work to be, it probably would make a lot of business sense to have those things available to the operator that was performing the work at the point of use. Inventory, material or information that sits idle and that's not being used. I see some people smiling because they're probably thinking about their work closets within their workspaces and how they look, and things that have probably been in there forever and ever. And then especially, us coming out of this pandemic, things are probably collected dust. So stock rooms and closets that contain material that's not being used or exceeded its shelf life. And some of us are probably guilty of this at home, right? We look in the cupboards and we look at the date on something and it was like 1999. What? You know. Another form of waste, motion. People, information, or equipment making unnecessary motion due to workspace layout, ergonomic issues, or having to search for misplaced items. So access points aren't considered in design. So maybe there's, you know, a piece of equipment that you're tasked to work on or that you have to get to, right? And whoever designed this didn't think to put space enough to have like a ladder, or it might have been easier for you to put a fixed ladder there to get to it, or maybe it probably made sense to even put it at the floor level so that you wouldn't have to climb, right? So access points to equipment weren't considered in design, creating a need to use ladders and aerial lifting devices, as opposed to designing an access point at the floor level, which is an example. And then the last one is extra processing. So performing any activity that's not necessary to produce a functioning product or service. So an FM example of that is redundant quality checks or audits. Have you had to ever do inspections and just to do another inspection of the same thing because the work orders weren't cleaned out? Duplicate work orders are produced as a result of poor record keeping. So that's Tim Woods for you. He's the enemy. And the object of lean is to eliminate Tim Woods. I mean, yeah, to eliminate waste in all of its shapes and forms. So the key principles of lean. 5 primary key principles: people involvement, continuous improvement, built-in quality, short lead time, and standardization. And each of these has their proper places. For the sake of time, we're going to focus on standardization in this presentation, but we're going to provide an overview of some of these different elements.
So we're going to talk about people involvement, and I just want to say from all my experience with maintenance and now dealing with facilities, people are the most important aspect of any enterprise. If we take care of the people, they'll take care of the business. I can just tell you personally, when you look at how most businesses are set up with the hierarchy, it depicts a triangle or a pyramid. But people involvement turns that triangle and that pyramid upside down, and you make the employee the focus of the enterprise. People involvement is the direct participation of staff to help organize, fulfill its mission, meet its objectives by applying their own ideas, expertise, efforts towards problem solving and making decisions. And I can tell you that we've put a lot of emphasis on really having our teams involved. We really want to make sure that their ideas are shared and that they can collaborate together to improve their job. We want them to feel a part of the process, not that we're dictating a process. So in the FM space, this is accomplished by establishing clear lines of communication, so between the managers and the operators. So our facilities management teams, they get together, they have weekly meetings, and they have discussions, and they look at quality. They do safety quality through safety quality. I'm getting messed up, Darrell. SPQRCE. Safety, people, quality, response, and environment. But we go through all of those. I jacked it up.
Now you good. So for the audience, safety, S, P, people, Q, quality, R, responsiveness, C, cost, E, environment, and some organizations refer to it as energy.
Yes.
If you don't learn anything else from this presentation, SPQRCE.
And that Jeanne jacked it up.
I
do it every day, but I just want to really stress that because that's what we really focus in our team meetings with our staff. Establishing empowered teams that are provided the tools and resources to accomplish the FM task, and seeking insight feedback from the operators themselves to improve and optimize the FM processes. So this is from Joe Patero, and it says, today we got a decision to make. You're going to get better or you're going to get worse, but you're not going to stay the same. Which will it be? And you really need to decide where you want to take your organization. So now we talk about continuous improvement. It's small, ongoing, positive changes that can reap major improvements. And when we think about that, we want to plan, we want to do, and then we want to check and act on it. So we have the business plan is established and is reviewed with the team. The stakeholders go out and do the work and establish the plan. The team checks the performance to the plan on a periodic basis, so it might be monthly. And then if we don't meet the plan, as far as performance, we put countermeasures in place where we try to have corrective actions. Stakeholders and the resources are assigned to act on the countermeasures, and the business plan is reviewed again, and the cycle sort of repeats itself. As they go out and they find things as a team, they list it, and if they don't hit their target, they try to put countermeasures in place to make the solution possible. And then we talk about built-in quality. The standard quality is built into the entire process. So you need to think about 3 rules when you do this. You really don't want to make a defect. Don't accept a defect, and don't pass a defect. So assignment should be executed so that the next shift does not have to do the work again. And that's really key. It's very frustrating for the staff if they have to redo the work. So we really want to drive those 3 rules. And then materials used for operation and maintenance activities should be inspected to the highest quality before they use. So, go out and really take a look at the materials so we're not putting defects into the system. And then we're going to talk about lead time. Lead time is the amount of time it takes to start and finish a process. So basically, when we think about lead time, the goal is to make this duration as short as possible. And we all know time is money when we're out there doing these activities. So examples of short lead time, and I probably the FM managers and then the people that participate in the team do understand that kitting is critical. You really need to make sure that you have the materials in stock. You shouldn't really be running around hunting for it because you have very small windows to do things. And then you establish a point of use areas for work to be performed in large spaces, and so that's part of your point of use in your staging area. And then you want to strategically place it. Well-stocked housekeeping cribs and janitorial closets and maintenance cribs are at key locations, so you can have materials and tools and reduce time. You don't want your team out there going and hunting apart if you have a small window on a weekend to do it. So it's some prepping, but short lead time is really key.
So, this is actually my favorite part of the presentation. So, actually, Jeanne is a phenomenal baker, and I'm a phenomenal tester. So, but when you talk about like recipes, we have some chocolate chip cookies, we have chocolate cake, we have a lattice-topped apple pie right there. There was a list of instructions, there was a list of ingredients that were used in order to make that. I remember I went online to try to get a recipe for some chocolate chip cookies because I wanted some homemade chocolate chip cookies. So went online and got this recipe, and I didn't have butter, but I had margarine.
That's cool.
And then I didn't have baking powder. So I was like, well, what's the difference with baking powder and baking soda? So then when I tried to do it and I followed, just because like they were like crackers. And like I was like, wow, what's the deal? Because I didn't follow the recipe, and I didn't get success. So I don't try to bake anymore. I just leave that to my good friend Jeanne and my wife, and we just keep it moving. But the whole point is that when we talk about standardization, you got to have the right recipe for success. So with that, like, what is standardization? So standardization is to bring it to conformity with the standard, especially in order to assure consistency and regularity. And when trying to make those chocolate chip cookies, that did not happen. There was no conformity. There was no consistency, especially with the taste. There's an example like trying to standardize testing procedures, or Andy Rooney, he said there ought to be a law standardizing the controls for hot and cold in hotel and motel showers, and I actually experienced that because I called a colleague and I was like, is your room like, is your room warm? And they were like, yeah, like my room was cold. But there was inconsistency, and within the FM space, we want to make sure that when we're delivering services, that we're maintaining consistency in how we do the work.
So now, this is always the fun part, and it really brings a lot of thought to people when we go into workplace organization and talk about 5S. The safe, clean, and orderly arrangement of workplace that provides a specific location for everything and eliminates anything that's not required. And I can tell you, I get that speech at home with my husband. So you may know where everything is, but others don't, and I can say that, especially with the cooking and having the supplies.
So somebody's smiling because I think a lot of people can identify with this. I hope not. But can you identify with this at some point in your life or career? I mean, it's okay. You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have, but like if your desk looks like that, like let's talk afterwards, okay?
Plus, I know if you have Post-its. If one of my desks, I had Post-its organized everywhere, and I'm like, I know where my Post-its are. These principles can be taken to home. So like I said, at home, I sort of have my arrangement because like Darrell said, I like to bake. So I know where everything is specifically. Now, someone else in the family says, where's the vanilla? I'm like, it's on the dining room table, in the box, and so yeah, it sort of goes in and out when you come from home to work. But why workplace organization? Workplace organization improves safety. 17% of workplace fatalities are from falls, many caused by poor housekeeping. Clean up all the areas to prevent incidents. Improves people, because a better work environment for employees. And I can tell you that's true. When I sort of get stuff organized at home, they know where it is. And it improves quality, leads to fewer mistakes and defects. And like what he was talking about, the baking soda and the baking powder, got to have them distinguished, because in the baking world, there is a major difference. And improves costs, many savings opportunities, eliminating redundant tools and parts. And I'm telling you, if I haven't organized myself, I find myself buying more of the same chocolate chip. So it flows. If you don't really organize yourself, it does have impact. So what do you want to do first for the 5S process? You want to sort. So you want to purge and organize work area. Then you want to straighten, understand where items belong to be easily accessible when needed. And that's really key. And then sweep and shine, clean up your work area so it's free of dirt and clutter. Then standardize and document and enforce and reward success in 5S behaviors. And then the hardest part is sustaining, continuously auditing, and improve the process. And one thing that we really stress when we do these workshops with our teams, we have them take pictures before and after. And it's pretty amazing when you see where they came from. And then everybody, because they participated, they have a lot of energy that they had input to getting their area the way they wanted it. So which cabinet would you rather find your supplies in, the before or the after?
So we're going to talk about standardized work. So standardization seeks to simplify and optimize work tasks for operators so that they can easily perform tasks the same way every time by using a set standard and clearly defined process. So most of you have signified that you're like facility managers, right? So it's really important that the technicians that work in your organizations have clearly laid out roles and responsibilities to their jobs, but also for the particular tasks associated with maintaining those assets, that is consistent, because variability increases the chances of you getting what we call a defect, and that's waste. So standardized work or standard work is documentation of the work functions performed in a repeatable standard method sequence that's agreed to, developed, followed, and maintained by the functional organization. That's a long way of saying, or pointing back to people involvement, making sure that the operators have a say in the development of these of the standardized work. And in the lean world, standardized work or work can be divided into two types: cyclic or non-cyclic. So cyclic standardized work talks about work consisting of a sequence of job elements that are performed within repeated product cycles throughout the course of a work day. Work that's associated with building a product has to be performed in the same takt time, and then actual takt time is related to the product takt time. We won't go into takt time, but an example of that is what you see on an assembly line. You know, it's repeated, right? You have one person doing this, the other person doing this, then another person doing it. It's cyclic. Non-cyclic standardized work is work consisting of tasks that are performed according to a prescribed method that consists of many steps that may or may not be followed in a sequence. So when you talk about like, I don't have to follow this step by step or in series. I can do this, and then maybe I can do this, but at the end of the day, all of the tasks are laid out, and the goal is to get all of the work completed. When we talk about FM work is non-cyclic in a lean space, because if I go into a space and like I clean a restroom, you know, it probably would make sense for me to do some things before others, but I don't necessarily have to do them in a prescribed order. I just need to do those tasks in order to get those things done. Does that make sense? Shake your head, yes, please. Okay, all right, all right. So when we document standardized work, you know, job tasks are defined by a standard task sheet, and then the details of those tasks are defined by task instruction sheets. So let's talk about standardized task sheets. So the standardized task sheet is the document that defines the entire job. So let's just talk about a bathroom. And then a lot of organizations have gone to posting the standardized work associated with cleaning and keeping up with their restrooms. Like you might see it like when you go into the restroom here, if you're looking for it, it's posted in the front, because not only does it allow the housekeeper or the janitor or the custodian to follow the rules, but it also shows us as customers that these things are being done in order to provide an acceptable service. But the purpose is to provide an overview of the task which has to be completed daily, weekly, monthly, etc. And then it also defines the timing of those tasks. A task instruction sheet, on the other hand, is a user-friendly document that breaks down the task into specific steps with enough detail to ensure the successful execution of that task. So as it pertains to like a maintenance activity, there might be specific tasks associated with that maintenance work order, but then you take that task and you break it down into its simplest parts to drive efficiency. But the purpose is to provide detailed job instructions for new team members. It provides a written history of the task, and then it provides a baseline for auditing, problem solving, and continuous improvement. So the required elements for success when it comes to standardization and standardized work. All elements and detail of standardized work must be agreed to and followed across all shifts and crews. That's where you get people involved in it, where people involvement comes in place. One of my pet peeves is somebody giving me something to do, and I go to try to do it, and it probably would have made sense if you would have consulted with me, because I know a better way of getting it done. So it's a lesson for us, and like the people that are actually doing the work probably have a lot more insight into how to get the things done, and we need to include them. And then standardized work is visible and readily available to all members of the organization, but then there has to be a process in place to continuously improve the standardized work, because as time goes on, there's going to be more and more innovation. There's going to be more and more bright ideas in order to get the work completed in a better way. And then back to my original point, for emphasis, the natural owners of the work elements are responsible for involving their employees in the writing of standardized work. So that's like me trying to take somebody else's recipe and make it my own. If I didn't ask to be a part of the recipe making process, but I'm thinking that if I was a part of that, I probably would have had a little bit more insight in how to get that done, and I would have never thought to use baking soda for baking powder or margarine for butter, as an example. So the benefits of standardized work. To the team member, it identifies the safest, highest quality, most efficient, and most ergonomically friendly approach to completing the task. It provides a method for the team member to have input into the improvement of their jobs. It provides the tool for proper training and problem solving. And then there's a concept known as a flexibility chart. And basically what it does is it identifies each team member's skill and proficiency in performing specific tasks, and it's visible to the whole organization so that everybody knows what everybody else can do. So in the event if Johnny wins the lottery and decides not to come in to work, we know somebody can do Johnny's job. Or if Joanne decides that she's had it and for whatever reason, someone can do Joanne's job. The benefit to the customer. Provides great quality and lowest possible cost through the continued execution of top quality FM service. And then to the organization as a whole, it improves efficiency by mitigating the passing of defects. Never make a defect, never pass a defect, never accept a defect. It provides a baseline for problem identification and resolution. And then it allows for more level work schedules, because if you have standardized work identified, you can understand where your highs and lows are, and you can level out the work so that you can gain more efficiency. Next slide.
So this is a quote from Coach Vince Lombardi. We are going to be relentless, chase perfection, knowing full well we will not catch it, because nothing is perfect, but we are going to be relentless, chase it, because in the process, we will catch excellence. I am not remotely interested in just being good. And that's one thing that as FM, in the FM world, we're not just being interested in being good. We want to be exceptional.
How'd you get all the football quotes? Just kidding.
Because
Never mind.
Would you like to elaborate?
No, I'm good. I'm good. So I'll let you close us out.
In conclusion, productivity is never an accident. It is always the result of commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. From Paul J. Meyer.
So with that, we just want to say thank you, and we will open it up if you have any questions or would like some insight or advice on how to make your operations a little bit more leaner. You know what? So you might have to talk to her. specifically. So,
You know, it's so funny, he's laughing about that. And my dad was a chef, but he really was into baking. And it really proves standardized work because he has a pound cake that I will not give the recipe away for. Somebody's asked me. But he made sure that he taught me the steps of not over whipping the eggs and how the sequence of events of putting it together. So, I mean, it trickles from work to home, but it really drives. He's now deceased. But I mean, I was smiled before he passed because I was baking his pound cake and he said, "You did it." And I mean, it just really showed how him teaching me standardized work, I could get the same product that he made for years.
and then in this presentation, we only focused on. We kind of laid out the different elements of how to apply lean, but we really focused on standardization. If you can get standardization institutionalized within your organizations, you can get an immediate return on your investment because all of the different elements like people involvement and continuous improvement, standardization, built-in quality, and short lead time, they're all interrelated. But if you can get standardized work right, that's where it is because the people are actually doing the job. The people that are doing the job are the ones that are creating value for your organization. And as the work continues to get done, if they're doing it in a way that's not creating waste or creating like a defect in the quality of service, that's where we get the real success. So, yes, yes, sir.
Do you have any experience or advice for implementing standardized work to a workforce that previously didn't have it? For example, I've worked at a site that had a lot of technicians doing HVAC, electrical, PMs, preventive maintenance activities. For years past, they didn't follow any kind of guidance. They kind of just did, they got a work ticket, they did it in whatever order they wanted to. And we try to implement a standardized work practice, which they kind of rejected because they've been doing this for 20 years. Why do they need suggestions on what to do, which steps? So give any suggestions on how to get buy-in.
So the individuals that are doing the work are actually doing the work. So I think it would start with, I would start with having a conversation with them with a notepad and a pen and like, hey, let's go take a walk. Like, how do you approach this job? And then have them tell you the story and then document it. And then actually that's people involvement, right? And then get consensus from them that what you captured was right. And then call the other person over that's a part of the motley crew and say, did we miss anything? And then that way you start the conversation and then then you have your first standardized task sheet. And then, well, what about this specific task? Like, well, what did you do? And then have them break it down, have them tell you the story and then document it. Because it's standardized. I mean, they probably are performing standardized work, but it's all in their mind. You gotta get them to tell you the story, but you have to document it. And then when they kick back and say, well, this is what you told me, but and then just the fact that they had involvement in establishing that is where the power lies. Oh, you.
Yeah, because once you open the door to the conversation, I can tell you with our skilled trades, they get their information from Maximo, and they start looking at the efficiency of their time, and if it's asking for things out of step or doesn't make sense, they normally come back to our business planner and say, you know what, I think we need to change this. The steps are off. We really don't do this. So we probably need to change it. So what happens, that goes to a team meeting, and then there's discussion at the team meeting to just clean up that standardized work.
Can I ask a follow-on to that then? So you're talking about improvements to those processes. Besides the team meeting,
Oh, yeah, once they go through at a team meeting and make the adjustments, that piece of paper gets handed back to the Maximo planner, and they make the updates.
Yeah, somebody has to be responsible for all of the record keeping. So all of the changes that come, you know, those revisions are captured for continuous improvement as a part of the plan, do, check, act cycle, right? You know, there was a plan, they did the work associated with the plan, and they went back and checked and said, well, that's not right. So then some type of countermeasure that is like in that case, it would be a revision to the standardized work. That has to be documented, and then now you adjust and you go back to the plan again.
And one thing we do, we have them sign off also that everybody's read it, that there was a change to the standardized work, because that's key too.
Thank you for your question. Yes, sir.
My question was very similar to that.
Okay.
All right, cool. That's efficiency, 2 for 1. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir. That's a good point. And then we have technology on our side now, you know, within our computerized maintenance management systems, you can actually upload all of those documents so that it becomes institutionalized. And, you know, as opposed to all the paper, so that your desk doesn't become like the one that we showed, there's a lot more efficient record keeping that you can do if you leverage CMMS. A good CMMS. Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the CMMS side, we just actually upgraded ours at my company, and we're now able to add a standard operating procedure checklist onto every work order. So when a work order generates for an HVAC PM, it automatically comes up with that list, and the employee has to go through and say it's on that.
He just validated my claim. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Any like pain points that people are dealing with respect to how they're getting work done, or how their teams are getting work done, that we could elaborate on from the presentation? The hands went up, so you and then you.
With supply shortages, everybody experiencing that. That, you know, not trying to be wasteful, because we're trying to keep more products on the shelf in fear that we may not be able to get those products in the future. So we really notice, you know, when this stuff's coming. And so how do you manage that? Trying to be responsible and not being wasteful, and maybe let this product expire.
So there's a concept within Lean called Kanban, which is basically min-max. So as you do your work, you begin to understand what it takes what it takes to stock materials in order to do that work. So you want to control them. You want to make sure that you have enough on hand, but you don't want to have a whole lot. And it's just a matter of just really like being diligent about studying what it takes in order to do it. And you establish like the minimum required and the maximum that you're going to have on hand. So like, say for instance, you are doing, you have a maintenance task to work on a pump or, a pump. So you make sure that you keep X amount of gaskets on hand. You have a max limit and you have a minimum limit. But like once you reach your minimum limit or you get close to your minimum limit, then you know that you have to have somebody order some more, but you order no more than what the max limit is. And that's how you control your inventory. Yeah, I mean, but it takes, like, the whole thing about Lean it takes discipline, right? It's like with anything, it's like following a nutrition plan, following a workout regimen, whatever. It takes discipline, but once you get in, like once you start doing it, it becomes second nature, it becomes a part of your DNA. And like you'll walk by a crib and you will see the label like men 3, max 8, and like if there's like 10 of them on there, like what happened, right? Then you have to go take a look at the work to see if you got the numbers right, or if you see 2, there better be an order like in the system to get some more in part. So that's just one way to handle that.
I just want to make one comment. And then I know one thing for us when you were saying as far as the shortage, I know if we can't get a part, we talk amongst our plants and we reach out to say, can we get this particular part until ours come in? So we do a lot of that too between the sites to try to support one another, because you're right, it is tough getting parts right now.
Yes, sir.
One of the challenges that we have is what's the proper SLA for certain tasks. What particular task, fixing a motor, fixing a pump. Why it takes one person 1 hour, why it takes another person 3 hours. And the feedback that I get from my staff is, one-offs. Well, this happened, and therefore I had to do this, and it took longer. And one of the challenges we're having is, if not being punitive to the employee, is to try to determine proper SLA to get a task done without wasting time, energy, money. How do you deal with that type of a situation? That one employee gets it done, in an hour, one gets done in 3 hours, but one-offs seem to be more often. Well, this happened. Well, that happened. Time clock, and I'm like, well, days on show, we should have done it.
Right.
That's concerning.
So one of the keys, I would take a step back and look at the standardized work, just to really see if it's correct. Because that might be, and then another thing I would also take a look at, is that particular employee organized with making sure everything's kitted before they go out there, that they're not up and around hunting for parts and hunting for tools, because that can build in that walking, that can build a lot of waste in. And then also take a look at one of the things that we do where we evaluate, we do our flexibility charts, and maybe take a look at, for the steps to do that particular task, what level that person has been. Are they quadrant 1, when you're by yourself? 2, you do it with someone else. 3, you can do it on your own. And 4, you can train. Take a look at where they are as far as their skill set, because that could hurt, that could hinder the performance. And with that, you can have we have team leaders, we have the team leader and the group leader go out and evaluate where that person is. So that might be a gap as far as the skill set.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jeanne, because, person A might be really, really proficient in doing a task and they're able to get it done, but you have to get insight into what it is that's making them perform at a superior level than the other person that's not. And once you understand that, then you can adjust the standardized work. And to Jeanne's point about flexibility, all technicians aren't created equal. Like the work is created equal, but all technicians aren't created equal, in that person might need some more training or some more help or guidance in order to increase their efficiency. I know we didn't solve your immediate problem, but it's really taking a look at how those two individuals are doing the work.
We're trying to balance it out because the workforce, as everybody here probably knows, for one reason or another, is bad. We don't want to lose what we consider to be a dedicated employee, be punitive towards them because it takes employee A a little bit longer. So we feel
involving, right? So in the spirit of people involvement and the spirit of people being the most important aspect of enterprise, we need to find out how we can help that individual be the best that they can be, whatever that means, right? So if that means really understanding how to do the work, because it's not so much, well, I need you to get this done faster because time is money. I want you to have everything that you need in order to be successful to do your job in the best way possible. You see the difference in the messaging? So that's a function of people involvement. It's all intertwined, right? Making sure that that person has the training, because non-utilized talent is a form of waste, or it goes the other way too. Do they have the skills in place in order to get the job done? And if it's not meeting the objectives, then that's something that you have to do.